Welcome to Corrections Mama 27 channel. So I've been doing a series on disciplinary in Texas. This is the disciplinary book. If you haven't seen the other videos, tune in. I've already listed all of level 1 through 3 disciplinary offenses. So now I'm going to show you what a disciplinary report looks like. This is what the disciplinary report looks like. So it basically, the officer fills it out. It has the inmate's name, TDCJ number, housing, job, offense date, time of the offense, general location where it happened. Then you have to list the offense, which is listed in here, and write out what the offense is, the title, the code, and the level, and the inmate's name and number a second time. And then you have a spot for witnesses to sign. And then for the charging officer, you print and sign your name there after you describe what had happened. And you're supposed to be factual about it, not emotional. Then you put down your rank, your title, your shift card, and your signature, and a supervisor has to sign at the bottom and approve it. And they want your shift card and stuff because they want to schedule a hearing for you to attend if it's necessary. I think I've only attended one hearing in the 4 years that I worked there. Then there's the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Institutional Division Disciplinary Report and Hearing. So at the hearing, they do a report on what happened at the hearing, who attended. So first of all, they're going to put down that the inmate was notified. They usually notify the inmate by jail mail. So it's they just send to the inmate the paper with all the information saying that they have been notified, that they have been written up. In Arizona, I had to notify them and put down the date and time on the ticket, which I liked Texas better because when you have to notify an inmate, it escalates the incident that's already escalated. So stupid. Arizona does a lot of stupid stuff I didn't agree with. In Texas, they would just get a notification by the administrators in jail mail that they're on report and when their hearing is. Inmate notification, so the inmate would be notified by paper, and then the hearing officer or whoever would deliver that to them would come with the paper and say, here's your hearing notification, I need your signature, and put down the date and time, and here's your copy and here's my copy. That way they cannot say, oh, I didn't get a notification, I didn't know. So they have to sign for it. There's also a waiver signature where they can waive a hearing. And if they waive the hearing, oftentimes they're usually a little bit lighter on the punishment, because you don't have to drag so much staff through all this stuff. And that's basically you just saying, I'm guilty. And then they give you your, then they go ahead and notify you of what your punishment is for the offense. And here it says, where my finger is, you see where it says right there, it says the inmate statement, the plea, guilty or not guilty, or no plea at all, the findings, guilty, not guilty, or DS means it was dismissed. And then it has loss of privileges, reprimand. And then loss of privileges underneath is recreation days lost, commissary days lost, property days lost, reprimand, extra duty, which means that they could have to pick up trash, do extra like work, you know, when they're not at work, do so many hours of community work, whatever they determine they need done. A lot of times it was portering or trash duties, or you have to go in admin and do stuff if you're even authorized to be in there for, you know, the higher ups. Also, they can suspend your visits, and also you can be restricted to your cell, get cell restriction. So this punishments in Texas was far more severe than in Arizona. Arizona disciplinary was a joke. In Texas, they didn't do let's make a deal. You give me some information and I'll let you off the hook. In Arizona, they'd go in and say, well, you know, what do you have to offer us? Do you have any information? What's going on in the yard? Is there anything I need to know? They basically turn you into a snitch. And I didn't like that because, first of all, they turn you into a snitch. And I don't feel snitches could be trusted anyway. Then you don't really get a punishment or a consequence for your behavior. And it's a joke. If you get loss of privileges or property, they generally don't lose rec time. They don't get cell restriction. They might get property, loss of privileges for their property, where they come in and take their TV and all that. I never seen them come in and take a TV and take, you know, property from an inmate. And if they did, the officers never knew about it. And the inmates would just borrow somebody else's TV or steal one or whatever. And we never knew who was on LOP, loss of property or loss of privileges. They didn't let us know that. In Texas, they would put it on the count sheet or on the roster. Who had a loss of privileges? Who was on cell restriction? Like, that shit was enforced. Every shift enforced that. That was never enforced in Arizona. The disciplinary, the officers never knew who was on disciplinary and who wasn't. In Texas, all the officers knew who was on disciplinary. And if you were on disciplinary, the officers would generally, the good officers will always follow through and make sure those disciplinaries was followed through with, because then they're not going to act out, because there are consequences. They're not going to act out on your shift for you. So it just makes sense. In Arizona, it didn't make any sense. In Arizona, it was pretty much a joke. I never really saw inmates lose recreation time in Arizona. I did see that they would lose the amount of money they could spend in the commissary and stuff. But I've never really seen them take property away. They were supposed to. But it seems to me if they're going to punish you and take property away, it should be listed so all officers know who's on LOPs. So if I'm walking through the run doing a walk and, you know, Able 5, Mr. Jones is watching TV, kicking it with a Twinkie, he's on LOP. He shouldn't be, so I can take it. I can seize the TV and the Twinkie too, which I would do, right? So, yeah, Arizona was a real joke about that. Extra duty, they did have extra duty. I did see that in Arizona. They did get visit suspensions. But I never really saw cell restriction. I mean, in a dorm, they could get cell restriction in a dorm. That means you got to stay in your cell 24/7, and we would bring the food to you. You weren't even allowed to go to chow. There were times where the supervisor would, they would say they could go to chow, but sometimes they weren't allowed to go to chow if they were on restriction. Then they keep track of all of this stuff and keep it in the folder, and that folder goes to parole. It goes to, it's your folder. It's your history. It's like your medical history, kind of. It's not a medical history, but it's your history of your behavior and your jobs and your career in the prison. So anything that you've been in trouble for, any jobs you've gotten, any complaints written about you, any information reports written about you, anything that goes on, it's written in a folder in your behalf, including tickets and stuff like that. So this was a disciplinary report and hearing record. So they would just keep a record, whether you're found guilty or not. They keep a record of this, and they would put down you were found not guilty, or they would put down whatever your punishment was, and that would be a record for your file. So when you go up for parole, or if it's time for them to review to see if you get your good time when it's your release date, they can go through this and look and say, well, this guy doesn't really have any disciplinary, or he did, but it was minor, so he's, they can determine how much time you're going to lose, or maybe you're not going to lose any at all. Maybe you were good, and you're getting out. Then there is a hearing identification stage. It says inmate present and represented by counsel, substitute major hearing procedure. So this would be where it says the disciplinary hearing of the inmate being recorded, day of month, this inmate is represented. They would sometimes be able to have somebody represent them. It says, our purpose to treat the matter before us with this fundamental fairness and arrive at a just decision. All parties must conduct themselves properly. Failure to do so will result in removal. So if you go to your hearing and you're acting crazy, they're going to kick you out and have the hearing without you. They have a plea, that your defense, prosecution stage, argument stage, and closing stage. And this means that it says here you can call witnesses and evidence to support the charges against you, that will support the charges against you, and so the department can use the cameras, they can use the officer's statement. Usually we can just write a statement. We don't have to show up at the hearing to testify. If it's a major charge, sometimes they'll ask us to appear in the disciplinary hearing and tell our side of the story, and sometimes the inmate can ask questions or put questions forward for the officer to answer or not, and then we can do that. Also, they're also given the opportunity to make a statement in the inmate's behalf, which is whoever's representing them. So it's kind of like a little court hearing. And then we have disciplinary hearing results and notifications. So the inmate will get this, and this will let them know whether they were guilty, not guilty, and what the results were. And then all that information will go to the dorm where you live and your work boss and all that. Sometimes you'll lose your job, especially if you are misbehaving at your job. You'll lose your job and go back to the whole squad, or, hard labor or something like that. So then we can discuss, let's see how much time. Well, we're going to do another video. The next video I do is going to be on disciplinary procedures. So we'll go over the disciplinary procedures because we're kind of at 15 minutes already. So I'll do another video on disciplinary procedures. And we'll just work our way through this little book. We'll work through the disciplinary hearings, special procedures and categories, and how to present evidence, personal property, major penalties. We'll go through some of that stuff too, and I'll just make a video of each one of these until we get through it. Hands down, Texas, I liked to work better because they were fair, but they were firm. And I have found the prisons that were too soft on the inmates were also too soft on the staff. And I really feel like Texas was reasonable and fair, and they held your feet to the fire. A lot of people didn't like Texas. I'm talking about inmates in general, because they weren't used to following the rules. And they didn't like their being held accountable for their behavior. So some inmates believe Texas was a difficult time to do. But I think that Texas, in my opinion, was a fair prison. And if you want to get your shit together, that's a good place to do it, because they're going to give you guidance. They're going to make sure that you do get it together. And they don't put up with bullshit. So, and we'll discuss the general procedures and what officers are allowed to do and not allowed to do concerning the matter. So thanks for watching. Please like, share, subscribe. Please watch the other videos. And yeah, so stay out of trouble. Stay out of prison.